This webinar is a little different. Rather than us presenting information, we're going to host a panel of WeVerify customers and get a discussion going about the topic and the service. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dave Getz from our marketing team. Dave is going to facilitate the conversation with our panelists today. Thanks very much.
We have a terrific group of panelists today. We have Dr. Carolyn Martin, who is from the Eye Boutique of Sedona, and that is Sedona, Arizona. Dr. Martin, welcome to our panel.
Thank you.
We also have Dr. Jennifer Carter from West Georgia Eye Care. Dr. Carter, we're so grateful that you are a part of our panel today.
Thank you.
Also, Alex is joining us. She is the insurance coordinator at West Georgia Eye Care. Alex, thank you for also being part of our panel.
Oh, thank you.
And last but not least, we have Cindy Miller, who is the WeVerify manager here at RevCycle Partners. And Cindy is our in-house expert and deals with all of these issues every day. So Cindy, thank you so much for being part of this panel this morning.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me.
All right, well, let's dig into this. Dr. Martin, would you describe your practice process for benefits and verification prior to your decision to outsource it? Just describe a little bit about how you went about it, what were the good and bad of it, and what you saw as you were trying to make this a key part of your practice.
Well, first, let me just say that I am in a rural area and we don't have a lot of employees. I see about 25 patients a day and I have a staff of 7. And within a period of about 2 months, I have a staff of 4.
Oh my.
Right. And so getting anybody in and trained was next to impossible. So at that particular point, we were doing everything on the fly. We barely had time to get people's information over the phone when they scheduled appointments. So we had to get it when they walked in the door, and we would, quickly, either we'd seen them last year and that's how it went, so we're going to cross our fingers and hope it's all the same again. We'd get on TriZetto, and check a private insurance, but with Medicare, many times we just had to trust that that was gonna work. So it was actually really scary because basically it was all up in the air as to whether or not we were going to get paid. Now, fortunately, most of my patients are Medicare with a secondary, so we didn't lose a lot of money in that time frame. But I will say that WeVerify saved my practice.
Wow, well that is a nice word. Tell a little bit about when you lost a staff. How did you like fix the issue immediately? Did you have another staff person step in? Did you just do less of it? Did you ever?
We had to do less. I have 1 optician, 1 technician, 1 front desk person, and myself. And so we were still running the same number of patients. And so the burden ultimately got spread to all of us, regardless of what our primary duties were. And so, I mean, truly, it really became a bare bones process. Copays, we were lucky if we collected copays up front. So you can pretty much bet we lost at least 50% of what we normally would have collected, because people know you can't send $20 to collection, so they just choose to not pay. So it was really tough.
Wow, that's really helpful. Dr. Carter, describe your process for benefits and eligibility verification.
So we had somewhat of a similar experience where we lost some staff. Apparently, if you drink the water at our office, you get pregnant. And so then we lost several people in that process. But before we had WeVerify, we would do our best to get the insurance information over the phone, which is not always easy. And, I think patients don't understand the process of verifying insurance is not simply a click of a button. It takes a little more time than that. And so they're less likely to, give it to you later, or send it in an email or anything like that. We were trying to get them to click on a link on our website and give us that information before they get here, and kind of found that they would do it as they're in the parking lot. So that wasn't too helpful either. But we would also print the schedule for the day before, go through and try to verify as much as we could. And again, short staffed. And some of it, they thought it hadn't changed and it did. And I mean, there's always those little catches, right? And in the process, there are still people that walk in the door that haven't given us their insurance information. So we're trying to verify the day before or the next day, and trying to verify those patients that are walking in the door who wouldn't give it to us prior. And Alex can maybe able to give you a little more detail than that, but it just, when you're trying to just really take good care of your patients, verifying insurance is not something that you want. You don't want your staff pulled away to verify insurance rather than taking care of patients,
Exactly.
Because why? Because it pulls them away from patient-facing activities.
Yeah. We work really hard not to really turn our back to a patient, even in the exam room, like when we're charting or whatnot. So it's a big deal for us to walk away from a patient or turn away from them and get in a computer and verify while they're sitting there staring at us. They have no desire to watch us do that.
And the last thing they want to know is that all you care about is how you're getting paid.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. That makes complete sense.
Yep.
Alex, what did you see in your work as insurance coordinator?
So what we would do, we would verify the insurance at the front of the house, so which is our optical. And we would do it in between patients coming out from the back to check in, or in between patients coming in the door to check in, or from the back to check out and the front to check in. So I feel like it really took time away from the patients that were in front of us, because we were trying to get them out because we knew we had insurance for the next day to verify. So I feel like it really took that personal connection we could have had with our patients. And now that we do have WeVerify our insurance, like we have that time to spend with our patients more, and really get to know them without having to worry about figuring out what their insurance is, or figuring out the next day what their insurance is, things like that.
Any sense for, out of 100 patients, what percentage of those do you have them fully verified before the visit?
Maybe about 85-ish, not
Right now.
Well, right now, probably about 90. But before, when we were doing it, probably about 85, but we'd have them fully verified and ready to go when they came in.
Cindy, what do you see when practices are coming into WeVerify, some of their processes that they've had?
I think what Dr. Carter and Dr. Martin and Alex are all saying is what we have witnessed most. It's trying to free up staff in the office, to have them have the time to do the verification. It's not always a quick process. There are some that are quicker, some payers, but they're trying to free up that staff. You're taking them away from the patient care. They're losing staff. They're down a staff member for an illness or what have you, and they're trying to get the benefits, but because of their schedule and their busy life inside of that office, they don't always have time to get a good verification. And so I think with most of our offices coming in, that's what they've been the most pleased with, is that they can concentrate on the patient. We're getting the verification. If there's a problem, we've already let them know about it ahead of time, ahead of that patient coming in. And so they can concentrate solely on their patients.
Excellent. Dr. Carter, let's move to the next question. I'll have you answer the question, what makes staying on top of this so difficult? I think we've touched on this a little bit. And any other specifics on where your office was getting stuck?
As far as before we
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
So kind of like what Alex was saying, the difficulty was finding the time to do it. And so we were trying to verify in between patients that were, currently in the office. So we're, again, just trying not to take away from their experience while they're here, but in the back of our head knowing if we don't get it verified for tomorrow, then that patient's experience is going to be bad too. It was like this snowball effect of, we're just spinning in circles. Part of it was a staffing issue at the time we started WeVerify. We were short-staffed. And part of it, honestly, was a lack of knowledge. We thought we knew everything that we needed to know, but you never know all of it. You never know everything you need to know. So WeVerify has helped us to kind of understand what we're looking at as far as, the notes that they type in and how we can talk to patients about those things. We use RevCycle to file our claims as well. And, between the two, we've really come a long way as far as collecting payments up front. So we track how many statements we send out every month. And we were afraid to and didn't know how to collect copays and deductibles and co-insurances and didn't understand all the words until you guys kind of helped clarify all that stuff for us. And so we went from sending out hundreds of statements a month, and we all know that patients tend not to pay things when they're out the door, to sending out, I think this last month we sent out 65, maybe 70 statements. So, I mean, that's been a huge, huge help to us. But so I don't think it was a systematic thing. I think it was a lack of staff and lack of knowledge.
I absolutely agree with everything. The same thing was happening here as well. But just to expound on that just a little bit, I had a gal that had worked in eye care exclusively with me for 10 years, and she really knew the industry, and she left. And what I discovered once WeVerify started on was that with the changing plans as rapidly as they're changing and they keep stripping them down, I've actually discovered that there's some routine vision coverage on some medical insurances that I didn't know existed. So we're actually, discovering a lot of stuff that we didn't know they had. And so it's really opening up all the possibilities, which we never did before.
That's right.
That's great. So Alex, what did you see in support of Dr. Carter's response? Any additions that you'd like to add there and what you're seeing?
I think it's just like the confidence now that we had, where before we didn't have the confidence telling patients, oh, you still owe this much on your deductible. Now it's very clear for us to read and know when we're checking out a patient that we can have that confidence behind our voice that says, we know that you do still have the deductible to be met, and then the patients actually trust us and know that we're not just trying to take more money from them. I think the wording part was where we were getting stuck the most before, but the way it's laid out now has definitely helped us a lot in that aspect.
Hey Dave, let me interrupt there. There's a question from the audience that is kind of related, and the question is how have you found the accuracy of the RevCycle info? I don't know if that it's kind of related to some of the copay type things.
Well, for us, the number of statements going out kind of relates to like patients paying up front, but also how good of a job we're doing collecting them. So once the payment is applied to their statement or their account, if we've done everything right and WeVerify's done everything right, then there should be no statement to send, right? So the sheer fact that that statement number has gone way down for us makes me really feel like you know, it's very accurate. Those statements that we send out are the kind of odd, like secondaries that, I don't know, they kind of get a little confusing. Or if we've been real busy and we just say, instead of having the patient wait, you know, the doctors will make the call to let them go and we'll send a bill if we know who they are. So the sheer fact that the statements have gone down and that when RevCycle applies it to the account, they're not having to say, hey, send another statement to this patient, that makes me feel like it's very accurate.
Good. Let's move on to our next question is, and some of these questions start to blur in terms of consistency, in terms of collecting the right copay up front, and discussing how that affected your patient receivables. You're talking about the statements that are going out. Dr. Martin, as you think back, how consistent were you in collecting the right copay up front?
We were about 50%. And then, you know, I have a number of accounts that have a $10 credit because we collected too much, or it was the wrong copay, or we should have done, I mean, it was just a mess. So, so sometimes just not collecting it and crossing your fingers and seeing what the insurance tells us the copay is what we ended up doing. And so, yeah, it was terrible.
How about you, Dr. Carter?
We were pretty terrible at it, honestly. We were really bad at collecting the right copay. We were probably worse at collecting the right co-insurance. You know, the terminology kind of can be a little intimidating, and so I will say that WeVerify and RevCycle both have helped us kind of understand what we're looking at. And I think the beauty of WeVerify is that the wording in each patient's encounter is very consistent.
Yes.
Like, it's gonna say, Alex can give you probably a better example of it. Like, go ahead.
So it'll say like $100 remaining of a $2,000 deductible. So we know for sure that they still owe that $100 before their copay applies. But that's consistent wording throughout every patient. So we're not guessing, well, maybe this means this, and then maybe this one means that. Pretty consistent now versus when it was before, we were just typing in whatever words popped in our head when we were verifying to make it make sense at the second. So it wasn't consistent. We had a couple people working on insurance verification, and it wasn't very consistent between each person.
So like Alex might type in, you know, $100 remaining, and
Right.
Denise types in, you know, $1,500 paid towards deductible. Yeah. So having to kind of weed through that is tricky with a patient in front of you.
Agreed.
Yeah, sure.
And it's very clear. And one of the other amazing comments that I've seen on occasion is that perhaps in the chart, we still have the old Social Security Medicare number, and there'll be a line in the verification that says, you know, new card was mailed out on such and such. You know, I mean, it's that detailed. So we could actually turn around and say, you have a new card. We need it. So yeah, that was amazing. I couldn't believe that one, really. That was above and beyond.
Yeah. That's great. So that's really specific. What is your best guess on the amount of, let's say, copays that you ended up needing to collect but didn't? What is the hit rate on actually being able to collect those once you've missed that window when they're at your office?
Oh my gosh.
Is it 50%?
No. It feels like out of the office.
Yeah, a painful question.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Don't make me think about that.
I think once a patient leaves the office, it just makes it very difficult to, number one, collect that money, because when they get a statement, you know, they expect in the office for them to know what they owe, and so they take care of that there. They don't want to deal with that after the fact.
Okay.
And I just think having the right verification actually just gives that patient the peace of mind that the people that they're talking to at the front desk or in optical or wherever they are, and somebody can actually talk to them about their benefit and explain that to them. I just think it just that the front end, when the patient walks in, is the place that the relationship starts to build when a patient comes into the office. And so if they're comfortable with that information, they're going to be comfortable throughout that examination, and certainly with the doctor if everybody on staff knows what they're talking about and can consistently give that information to them. And
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's head to our next question, which I think is a way of framing what you know now, what you believe now. If you were talking to a new grad about the importance, of a comprehensive system for benefits and eligibility, what would you say, Dr. Carter?
Well, first of all, I would say as a new grad, you don't know as much as you think you do, because I would tell so I would tell myself that looking back. Systems are really, really important because it does keep things, consistent, and it's something you can rely on, right? There's lots of things in business and in the optometry world that they don't teach you in school, and one of them really is insurance. I mean, they don't, unless things have changed, because it's been a little bit since I've been out of school, but that's not something that they really focused on and taught you how to verify insurance and how to code and how to bill, and when you can bill it to Medicare and when you should not bill it to Medicare or whatnot. So having somebody as a partner with you to be able to verify that insurance, number one, keep it consistent, number two, but also to kind of have your back. So if you have questions, they can answer those questions for you. Is hugely beneficial. I think it's really invaluable, honestly.
I would ditto all that, but I would also say, unless you're only a self-pay practice, this is absolutely essential.
Oh yeah.
And outsourcing it will cost you far less, and you will get far more expertise than trying to do it in-house and training your own people, because you don't know as much as you think you do.
What is each of your? You have the two docs on the panel today. What is your philosophy on when to outsource, when to build it in-house in terms of staff? Do you have any thoughts on that? Just overall, some general principles that you've thought about, what to keep core to the business, what to outsource?
My practice, I've been practicing for 23 years, and I went out on my own just a little bit over 6 years ago. I was always an employee. And I came into this thinking that if you have it all in-house, then there's the face that the patient can talk to, and it's more relationship driven. But when it comes to money, anytime you throw money in the mix, otherwise normal people go completely insane. So you have to have people who know what they're doing, that you can rely on to be your source of information. And I just, yeah.
I think that's absolutely correct. When it comes to money, people do. If we ever get a not so great comment or review or whatever, it's always about money every time.
Always.
We didn't do a good enough job explaining it, or they, their insurance company told them one thing and we're telling them something different, or whatever. But it's always about money. So if you can outsource things like that to get some really reliable information, I think it's worth every penny.
Well, let's move to our final question. How does having the exact data in front of you when a patient walks in help that patient-doctor relationship, which you're just talking about, which is that tension that happens over money? How does having that exact data improve or strengthen, the patient-doctor relationship?
Alex and I talked a little bit about this one when we were kind of going through some stuff to get ready for this webinar. And, for us, it's the patient-doctor relationship, but it's also the patient-practice relationship. We work hard. Our mission statement says that we're going to earn your trust. And so having that information there, number one, gives us a platform to be able to talk intelligently to our patients about their insurance, and that builds a little trust between the patient and whoever on the staff that they're dealing with, whether it's the doctor or the optician or technician or whoever. Any of us can pull it up and see it. It also, takes away the stress from my staff of trying to verify all that stuff, so that when the patient does walk in the door, they're solely focused on that patient. They come in, check them out, they can also spend time with them. They can talk to them about their dog or their grandchildren or whatever's coming up. And the patient doesn't have to worry about the money part of it so much. They know that they can trust it because we've got somebody good, giving us accurate, good information.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Alex, anything you'd like to say and follow up in working in that area, having that data and what that now means for you?
Yeah, so it was a lot less stressful at the front, and we had more confidence too with our patients. And that goes back to them trusting us. If we're not confident in what we're saying, they're not going to trust us to know that we're taking the right amount of money from them. But I think overall it's less stressful, not trying to juggle everything. We just have to take care of the patients pretty much.
Yeah, that's great. That is actually a great way to put a period to the webinar. Are there any questions from our audience that you might have for follow-up?
So Dave, I got a couple of questions in, and then I'll invite others to send more questions in. A couple of questions about the WeVerify service. One question is, any issues with RevCycle keeping up with your schedule?
No, they're farther ahead than I ever was, even with my dedicated employee. They're much farther ahead.
I get a task from them. If I'm missing a code, I'll get a task sometimes the same day because they're ready to file that claim. So, I mean, they're further ahead than I am most of the time.
Great.
Cindy, from your
go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to ask Cindy from her perspective, what's your process for quote being ahead of the practice?
Okay, we always work and we guarantee each of our practices to be 2 days ahead, and that gives them time to, if we're putting a message out there for them or we're sending them a task that something's wrong, the patient's coming in for, let's say, a VSP routine exam on the 12th, but their benefit doesn't renew until the 13th, that if we stay that 2 days ahead, we're able to give them that information. Patient doesn't walk into the office upset because they're going to have to pay for this out of pocket because they're a day ahead of their benefit renewing. The office is not out of money. They're not going to have to deal with that. We're always 2 days out, and we try to stay at least a week out. And on occasion, we're a little further than that out. And then we always go back and we check for any add-ons. And we can usually catch most of the add-ons, unless it's something that's, not much time in between the add-on and the appointment time.
So Dave, I got a follow up to that, which is kind of related, but maybe just for clarification. I think Cindy answered it, but just to clarify it, it says, does RevCycle grab a B&E for walk-in patients? So it would be like same day, I guess, Cindy.
Yes. Well, if it depended on what time. Each morning when each of the specialists log in, they're looking for any add-ons. And if it is an add-on within, a couple of hours from the time they log in until the appointment, we can normally grab those. We don't guarantee same day, but we do catch most of those.
Another question, I'm going to paraphrase it a bit, but basically, does the report show vision and medical? So are we gathering benefits for both B&E for both medical and vision?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was an
And
easy one.
that's a lifesaver right there. Because as I mentioned earlier, there are oftentimes medical plans that carry a vision and the patients have no idea what they have. They have no idea. So it really is a game changer when you're, doing the exam and knowing what you're going to bill for.
And then one last one, unless anybody wants to enter one, this is probably another Cindy question. We are a RevCycle billing customer. Does my biller do this work as well?
No, the biller doesn't actually. We actually have a separate department for WeVerify, a whole different staff. Each account is assigned a specialist, just like on the RevCycle production side, you're assigned a biller. However, the specialist in WeVerify, they work closely with the RevCycle biller, and so it's just double the amount of information that we have. So it's basically like having two people working because they're able to ask each other questions. We're able to gather information from them that we're looking for. So, but it is not your RevCycle biller that does the verifications.
Good. Well, if that wraps up our questions, Paul, that's it, I think. Let's go towards the end of our webinar today, just to explain a little bit about what is WeVerify. This is a service of RevCycle Partners. It's a comprehensive benefits and eligibility verification service. It gives your team, as you've just heard, a complete and instant picture of the benefits available for each patient. And our key benefits, when we talk about WeVerify, we talk about that it can identify unused patient benefits for additional practice revenue, things that you may have not known about if you didn't have the data. It also strengthens your patient trust by clarifying payment responsibilities up front. And the doctors today talked about that, how important that is, because when it comes to money, all of a sudden the conversation changes. Another benefit is that it provides the correct data for the proper billing, enabling the practice to shorten its accounts receivable cycle. Of course, this is always one of the big goals. It's one thing to have revenue, it's another one to collect revenue. And that's one of the key benefits of WeVerify. The other, I think, is really critical, which is it frees your staff to focus on other patient-facing priorities. And both Drs. Carter and Martin, as well as Alex, have talked about that today, how important that is. Paul, I think that's it for today. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, just appreciate you facilitating the conversation, Dave, and thanks for everybody for joining us.